Hey guys. Hey David. Hey Peter. Hey Mark. Look, I'm sort of looking at this. Um, yeah, I'm not sure I've got particularly far into it this time. It's been a crazy week. I'll talk more about that tomorrow night, but it's been a bit of a crazy week. This is where we're going wrong. This is Bill's hardest test to cover. And I'd very much like to get better than just a clear plastic cover. I'd like to do something nice for it. But we've already had one go at it. If we have a look at this, this is where we were last week. I've had a couple more go since. But this is, if we look at this reflection over here, you've got some flat spots across there, in here. And in the corners here, there's some dents that shouldn't be here. You can see that reflection. And a flat spot in there somewhere. The reflection gets quite wide there. So it's not the ideal. Now this curve here is pretty close to right, and this curve around here is pretty close to right. What we've got is two completely random curves here and here, and these are sort of the same, but this one's different. So pulling this in here to match this, what we need to do is take this curve and scale it down to match fit on here on the tapered part of the curve. If we do that, then I believe that this will work. So I'm going to do that at some point. Next week we'll have a look at this because that's what it needs to do. Nothing the file couldn't fix, probably, but it's not right. It's no one put too much filler and stuff in it. And then you could file it up, but I think we'll get it right. And profile here needs to be mirrored here and here and scaled down to, and then I don't believe that we'll have any more problems. Still thinking about how to do that. So that's where we're at. What else have I done this week? Nothing at all. Right? Not even a little bit. So we should start a new project. What should we start? We should make something simple, easy. Don't know really. I do have things I probably should be doing, but I haven't done because I'm a bit slack. There's a couple of work projects I should be doing, and I haven't got anything done on them. I've done a little bit of sketch work on some drawing projects or some painting projects that really need to be fixed at some point in the next few weeks. But is Bill here? I don't know. There's 7 people watching. They must have got sick of this. We're back down to 4. Anyway, I have done a bit on these. Mostly just printed them out. James is here too. This is very for a little. Basically, this is the pattern. Actually, it's not. It's not even close to the pattern. I did this twice. It says Williams mains bearings, but it's not actually that. I think there's a folder here somewhere that I had a second look at, because the ones I actually printed are different to that. Have a look here. I believe they were in a folder somewhere. I can't find them. Anyway, this is not the one that I actually printed. I've got a pattern for this, and I was going to cast it today, but we'll do it next Tuesday, so that'll be awesome. That's for a little stationary petrol side shaft engine, about quarter horsepower, something like that. It's only a tiny bench top engine. It's tiny. Clack valves I haven't looked at. Sorry, Mark. Founder clacks we haven't looked at. I've been messing about the woodwork on this donation box today in the other room, so we'll have a look at that tomorrow night. And there was some few little jobs, aluminium and brass, so forth. What we could look at, if we have a look here. Here. It'd be nice to cast this steering gear next weekend. I'm going to have my work cut out to do a bit of a job, actually. This is the gear, sketches and all. And we've got a core box here to make come on, load. We'll get there. Away all weekend and it's been a bit crazy. So we've got a core box to make the gear, and that gives us 17. Um, 17 pieces. Basically, when they're laid out, they look something like this without the core box. There's bad. But without the core box, they should look something like that. So our pattern should have, if we put this here like this, that brings it in. That's what the cores arranged around the sides of the pattern should look like. Let's have a look here. There's quite a lot of parts here that have a look at this. That gear fits inside there just beautifully like that. See? There is a steering gear. Right, so what we need is a pattern that looks exactly like this with a core print on it. And the best way to do that is to start a new, we'll have a look at this and we'll do this. We'll draw this up. So if we start a new part studio along here, and we call this one, we rename it pattern. Right, then we click this button up here, which is the derived button, which is what we need to do. Is this one here with derived. Very interesting, because if we click that, it pops up a little menu here. And we can select parts from another part studio. So we can select that, and it'll put that part, copies as it is, onto, we can just onto this drawing, duplicate this drawing, and have all the bits need, but we only need the two parts in this particular drawing. So we'll wait for it to bring itself in here. A little spinny thing down the bottom. And that part we need. And that part. There's the first one in there. And all the others. If we click OK, we've got all those parts, and they're separate parts. Derived parts that have come in on from the other sketch. Now if we go Boolean up here and Union, we don't want to keep the tools, right? We can use that and that and that piece, and click Boolean, and we've got basically what we've got is a pattern. Now there's still this depression in here. We can fill that up very easily by putting a sketch on the outside. A sketch on there. Doesn't even matter what size it is. And we can extrude that. Reverse that. It's only got 1 inch, there'll be no hollows in it. And let's clean that up. So that's basically what we've got. Now you notice the planes are still showing. We can click P and got rid of them. And that's the pattern. And basically that's how it looks. And that's what we're going to ram up. Now this needs a core in it. It's a 3-inch shaft, I believe. We could check that. We come back here to the piece before. This little tape down the side here. If we click that, and it gives us a radius of 38.1 millimeters, which is 76.2, so that. So that must be 3 inches. That's one way to check that. The other way is to find this. Click that, and it'll come up here with the sketch, which is in a folder. And we edit that sketch. It's giving us a 3-inch or a 1/2 inch. Why he's done it that way, well, I'm not sure, because this is something a friend of mine who's at Onshape Whiz actually drew up. I didn't actually do this. What would be smarter rather than putting this in here? I'm not sure they are much different. It's an interesting one, Tim. It's an interesting question. The proper way to dimension that, if we click on that and then click on that and come back here, it'll give us a diameter dimension. So there you go. That's an interesting little trick rather than the radius dimension. Doesn't change anything, but it does give us the dimension there, which is 3 inches. We'll go back here to the one we're working on. The front of a roller is very heavy. I don't think they're a lot different. I think there's probably a couple of, there might be a tooth different on them, but rollers are generally, they should be light in the steering. But that's exactly right. Come on, my internet's a bit slow tonight. So what we've done is drawn the casting as we'd like it. It'll have a hole in it and it needs a core in it through the center for a couple of reasons. One is we save quite a bit of material, like about 3 or 4 kilos of brass. 4, second reason is that it eliminates shrinkage if there's not as much material. We don't get anywhere near as much shrinkage if there's not as much material. So we haven't got problems with shrinkage across here. We've only got shrinkage from here to here. Another reason is that we haven't got 2 days machining to get rid of it. So if we put a sketch on here, actually we're not going to put it there. We're going to put it on the center plane, on the front plane. We'll click that one there, put it on the front plane, and put a circle in this for our core print. Now, we don't want to take a lot out. 3 inches is the diameter it needs to be machined to. I'm probably going to go something like 2.7, 2.5 will do. That's 1/4 inch on each side. That should be plenty. And we can click extrude without even finalizing that stitch. It'll do it, that sketch. It'll do it all for us. We need a core print on this end to sit the core in. Let's come out 1/2 inch that way. And we can do the second end position. An extra 1/2 inch too. If we put a comma instead of a full stop, it automatically changes that to red and says it won't do it. So much for the Germans. So that gives us a core print. And we can make a sodium silicate core to sit in the center. And when we put it back on the print, on the pattern, on the core, on the mold box, sorry, we put the top back on the mold box. There we go. We will have a gap in the middle that's not going to fill up with brass. We can pour into here somewhere, and we've got minimum machining. So that's what the pattern's going to look like. And we'll make a core to match. We need to make a core box for it, which is basically a box to mold that in. What's probably going to happen with this is that I will find a bit of PVC pipe or something the right size, or is the right size, and put a crack down one side so that we can get it out later. Split one side of it down and put a couple of hose clips around it, or a couple of cable ties even, and that'll give us a core box that's quick release and the right diameter. roughly, and we can make this print to match. So that's how I'm going to do that. So if we have a look here and make another part studio, this is also me because it's stuff that's ongoing and this is actually going to happen. If we sketch out a mold box, for example, just to see how, show you how this is going to work. Center point rectangle there, and we'll go 12 by 12. We'll press, if we click that, that'll bring it back in the screen, and we extrude that up. Got it 4 inches. We're working in black and white measurements here. And we'll change the color of that. We'll click on that, add appearance to part 1. And we'll call that. So it's easy to see. We'll make that sand colored, the foundry sand colored. And if we import, if we do it again, if we function again, we can derive a sketch too if we need to. We'll insert that part. It's around sideways, see? We can transform that quite easily if we use this transform button, and we want rotate. That moves it that way. That's not quite right. You can use a mate connector. If we close this out of the way, we can select, probably somewhere we can select a mate that sits down sideways. Nope. Can't do that. Probably the easiest way, I mean, it doesn't really fix your problem, but the easiest way to do this is to edit that sketch for part 1. And instead of top plane, we make it front plane. And that puts it, that orientates that around the opposite way. See, like that. We need to transform that part down so that this will all make sense in a second. -2. I think it's the right. No. So that puts that in the position of this where the sand needs to be. To give you some idea what the depression is going to be like in the sand, this probably is a subtract Boolean function here. And the tool, of course, is the thing we want to remove. And the target is the sand block. And that's the depression that's going to be left in the sand. Now there's a course to give you some idea how that's going to work. 2.5 inch core. We could quickly draw that up. We could call this the center core. And we could sketch so that this is aligned properly. We could sketch on this plane, and we could draw a circle that's 2.5 inches diameter. That's easy. 2.5. And how thick is it? It's 3 inches, 4 inches. So we could, I think it's 4 inches from memory. We could go and measure it, but 4 inches. And that's what the core looks like, basically. We change the appearance to sodium silicate sand. There we go. And we'll start a new assembly. It's probably really good. Really good policy to rename that too. And we can just insert the parts. So we need this one. This, of course, is not on the center line, so we insert it again. Little trick is if we select that part and we don't move off this little pop-up tab. If we move off, it'll move it around every place it where we like it. If we back on here, that'll put it back on center. And we'll put that bit in too. Oh, it's the wrong bit. I'll hide that. And we'll put a fasten mate in here using the connector in the top of there and in the bottom of there. It's easy to flip over. And that's how the core sits in there. Now if we come back here, we can just double check this piece here. remove that, remove that. And there's the core piece, which is called, let's rename that to tooth core. And if we come back here to our moulding assembly, what we can do is we can insert all these pieces in here and see what the actual mould looks like, which would be an interesting little exercise. So this is probably deadly boring, and I apologise for that, but this is, like I've said before, these are the things that I've sort of been messing with in the last few weeks. It'll load eventually. Did you get to see a roller, TMB? Hope you got a roller and had a bit of a go. So how do we align that? What we need is to, for starters, we need to probably move that through so we can actually, before we do that, move that through so we can actually see this from this side. You might find it's exactly the right spot anyway. If we move it through 3 inches, it's probably close enough. -3, it's the other way around. And that's how that fits. I believe that we should be able to array this in here. Assembly circular pattern, we've got this face here. 2, 4. And we find the axis of the pattern. Which is there. And our instance count of 17. And it's as simple as that. So that's how the pattern looks, or the mold, or the actual, an open mold, still got to have the top on it. Not a difficult thing. If we insert another one of these, we might not do it that way. We might do it this way. If we go back here to the main pattern, we need another box of sanded. No, it's parts 1 we need, not the main pattern. Because we've removed that part, we need to go back and edit this. And click this Keep Tools button. And we've still got that piece in there. So that gives us an extra piece there. If we make a new part here, the same, and we extrude sketch 1 just the same, and make that one 4 inches tall too. And we've started from the same side of 4 inches. That gives us 2-part mould. If we edit the appearance so it's just a little bit more, let's go for a different colour grey. We can use this same function again and subtract the tools is this, and the targets is this. We keep the tools, click OK. That gives us the top of the print, top of the mould. We can insert the top of the mould on top of there. And it's sort of, if we don't move off that, it's done it for us. So inside this box, right? Let's have a look at this. What's the best way to do this? If we change this to a section view on here, a section off here. And move this in. This gives us some idea of what we've got here. What we haven't done, see that red there? That's an interference, which is kind of cool. If we make that, that's the center of the mold. Our core's got an interference with the pattern, so we need to go back and change that. It shouldn't have, see? It's got a little bit of a lip there. But the core's obviously changed the length of the core. If we go to this where it's extrude, if we edit that, and I've made that 4 inches, if we make that 3.5, my memory mustn't have been as good as I thought it was. And go back to here. Not fixed it. Made a whole lot worse. Because our mate is actually let's fix that. But it hasn't fixed all these. But because this is a assembly array, we can just change all of them. And that gives us what the mold looks like. We pour that metal inside there, we will get an ink reverse. Let's edit the section view, because I'm not sure that that's particularly useful sort of a section view. But that gives you some idea how that works and how all the parts go in together. So that's how we're pouring the gear, and that should work out quite well, I think. I don't think that bronze is going to be a problem. We could pour it in alley bronze, and I think that that might be quite a lot harder and quite a lot harder wearing. It's also quite a lot harder to machine. And unless you get the actual measurement exact, or the recipe exactly right for aluminium bonds, you will never machine it. So that's a little bit more complicated. We'll talk about that with the foundryman, but just in a decent bronze is going to be plenty good enough, I think. So that's how that works. So all in the interest, we notice that if we have a look at this, close that section plane, and we take this cover off, we just hide this here. We've got all these pieces in here. Hide the circular pattern there too. This has actually got a taper on it. So if we section view that now, it's got a taper so that we can get that mould easily out of the sand. We might as well put a little bit more in. But that gives us some idea how that works. That's about over the centre of the inner part of the gear there. So that's something we've been messing with. And I think that sort of explains pretty well how that works. A lot of messing around. All these little pieces here are actually cast in the same material as this. Sort of feel like we could change the colour of that, which is simple as editing appearance. And then when we come back to this, this is simple really, I guess. It's a bit of head scratching to get to the point that this was actually going to work. Come on, you can do this. It'll load, I'm sure. There's quite a lot of parts in there. And some fairly complicated stuff, and then some of it's. See, the problem with the derived function, and while it works, and if you're patient, it's cool, but it's pulling the information from, it's going through all the procedures that we've gone through before it loads it up. Still got a little bit longer, so let's go back to our menu. Had a look at that, and if we could get like a core box and the main pattern somehow produced before next weekend, I'd be very happy to pour it next weekend. But I'm not sure it'll happen. Let's create a new cover new document here. And 06/25, which is the date. Eventually it'll load. I've been up to the foundry this morning, had a monthly meeting, which we always have, and that dragged on much longer than expected, because you've got to talk about all the things that weren't really part of the meeting before you actually get there, before you actually get to the end of it, as monthly meetings tend to all be. Add molds and boxes, and they're going to pour them on Friday for me, and I'll pick them up again next Tuesday, all going well. I had every intention of doing my mate Phil's car and putting some stripes on it next weekend. I think we're going to have to put that off for a week for him, so that's probably the best thing we can do. Let's have a look. I'm just looking here for something simple to make. Got all sorts of things here on the bench. Wonder what we got that we can draw up. Yeah, as far as meetings go, Mark, it is a bit of a surprise. It's one of those weird mysteries. It's how it works, though. Just live with it. Got a snap-on screwdriver here and a pair of verniers. Don't know, I guess we're all familiar with the snap-on screwdriver. If I pop this up, some idea this is what it looks like. Shouldn't be a difficult thing to model up. Let's do that. I'm going to turn that off for a second because it drags a bit of bandwidth there, and no one really needs to look at me. So where do you start? Have a look here with the vernier. The handle is, it's probably, let's go with metric. I don't know if it is metric because it's freedom units, etc. But it's pretty close to 108 millimeters long. So if we do a sketch here, start and center point, if we put a sketch here on, probably not on this side because top plane is really the answer. We can click this to select our sketch plane, or we can select this plane here. We press P to get rid of all the planes, and then we press the line tool, and then Q, which selects the construction line. We move out here 108, type it 108. And we'll do the same. We might not. We can press Q again to get rid of the construction line. This is sort of square. And I dropped the screwdriver. Pete had a black one of those. I've got a set of these, but they're sort of, I'm not sure why. Tell me I've got no money without telling me I've got no money. So it's 28 mil. Half of that's 14. And then there's a flat along here that's 7 millimeters long, roughly. Then the other end, it's got a radius on it, but it's, we're going to call that 24. So that's 12 millimeters at center. Now we've got a spline. Let's use the spline tool here. We'll run along here. And that gives us a close approximation of the shape of that. It's 28 mil in the center, the same. So we could probably put some dimensions on it. Can't do it that way. And in the middle there, it's down to, what have we got, 20 mil. So we'll call this 10. And this point here, we'll call this 1. See, we can just make the whole size there if we wanted to put the whole lot there and use a total dimension, which is 28. Now, doing that's, the high point there on that is about, what do we got? Let's call it 36 mil. From there to there. We'll call that 36. Now we're starting to look more like it. And the very low point is about 25 from the other end. So if we measure this one to this one, that's wrong. Press escape and start again. That one to that one. Is 25. So it looks something like that. Yeah, finding them in car boots sounds like a better idea. Now that's our profile. We're looking at this from the right. I've messed that up, didn't I? Move this down here out of the way. So that's our profile across the centre. Now we could just revolve that, but it's not, it's square, which is interesting. So what we need to do, this might be an interesting thing to draw up. Let's put a line from there to there, nice and perpendicular. See the little confined symbols come up there? It's one that says there's a dot that makes it perpendicular, and one that says that it's in line with another line, which is probably the one at the back. And it's over constrained if we do that. Probably removing that one, I reckon it'll probably fix that. And we'll put another one here. We could probably select that and make that one there into we can press Q, or we can press a construction line. If we press Q, it turns that into a construction line. Now, let's finalize this sketch. We've got a plane on this end. If we look at that, we go to the right here. You see there's a plane there. Probably don't need to keep that one. And probably don't need to keep that one, but we will keep this one. It's a plane on that end. If we put another plane here, plane point's not the answer. We'll go for line angle. It needs to be 90 degrees to the line, 90 degrees to sketch. And we'll put another plane here. $90 degrees. And we'll put another plane here. Also 90 degrees. And what we can do then is we can draw some sketches out. Let's put a sketch on this one with a center point rectangle because it's nearly square. And we'll call this, what do we say, 28 mil. Way over constrained. The way too. Of course, let's move that. Just line that up there nicely. It didn't do that like we were going to. Sometimes the easiest way is just to Control Z. and start again. The squarish, for a start, the squarish will do. Now out on this end, it's not 28 mil, is it? It's only 14. It's only 12. So we'll go 24. That's the first sketch. We'll do the same with this one. New sketch on this one. Same deal. Make this big so that it's not constrained by anything, and we'll put that 28 and 28 because we know that's right. That's the second one on the center. We'll do the same with this one. Start on that like that. That one, and then another sketch on the front plane. Which is back to 28. 28, 28. If we press P to get rid of all the planes, or they'll come in and then they'll disappear. That gives us sort of a basic framework. Now we need to make, what have we got here? We need to make a surface. Click that line, which is a bit difficult because it's trying to find a center point, and that one. And if we use, which one do we need to use to do that? I think it's offset surface. It is too. What we need to do is go back here to sketch one. Here we go. This is how we do it. Edit sketch one, which is this one. This line here, which we left as a cut because it's got a construction line. If we change that, we can offset plane here. Does that work? Good question. Not really. What we want is to make a plane off, or a surface off that particular line. Can't be that difficult, can it? If you hold that over the actual command button, it'll give you some actual instructions. Maybe that's the one we need. There we go. We can select that, and we can select that. There we go. Look at that. Look at this. So our distance 14 millimeters. There we go. If we select here mirror, and mirror this one, our mirror plane is that sketch. That'll put that back over this side. We can join them together, I reckon. And we can do some really fancy stuff then, like this. To join it together. We use a circular pattern and use that as our axis of the pattern. And for and then do, which is very cool. We can use these to actually trim the pieces that are left out and sticking out. Does that make any sense? So, I think it's here. Trim. It's not the right one. That gives us a fairly nice angle there. We can do the same again. what we've got is a bit of a situation here. And that we've got a gap here, see, so this won't make a solid. That's clear as mud. So what I'm going to do is get rid of those two mutual trims and the boolean and the mirror, right? And back to here. We're going to edit that ruled surface. We're going to make it 16 millimeters sticking out. Now, let's sketch one. And let's do that again. It probably didn't need to remove either of them. Use the mirror. I'm going to click add. We're going to put our mirror plane as that. That gives us one plane, one mirror piece. Now if we do a circular array, circular pattern, and we select that part, the axis of patterns on that line of that sketch. And 4 of them at 360. Click that, and then we use all neutral trim. We'll call our first surface this one, and surface this one. And we have to reverse the direction of both of those. We've got merge selected, so that's the first pair. Let's fix that problem. Made it a little bit longer so they intersect. We do the same again with this one and this one. And it's only that gets rid of them and leaves the bits in the center. There we go. Do it again. This piece and this piece. See, that's only left the piece sticking out. If we reverse that, reverse that. And that's given us pretty much. Why not trim down all the planes first? Because they're actually an odd shape. What we can do here is you can close. Nope. We'll use this one, which is fill. There we go. We use fill. And that'll fill that edge in. There we go. We want to do the same on this one. We select add rather than new. It doesn't just put a new surface up, it actually adds it in. And that's miraculously turned it into a solid part. There you go. So some details on that. It's not quite exactly how it is, because there's a very interesting chamfer on that, which makes it sort of 8-sided. See, it's not exactly square like that. There's an 8-sided chamfer on here. Not a particularly difficult thing to do. If we copy sketch 1, there we go, which is that sketch. Right. And then we make another plane, that line. At 45 degrees. And then on that plane we make a sketch. Are we following this? Of course we're not. That's all right. I'm hardly following it myself. All right. And back in. And we move this along. Up with that dot there. And move this up until it lines there as well. We've got a 45-degree angle, basically. A sketch at 45 degrees. Now, we could have vernier and measure that across there and just see how much more it is or how much less it is. So that's actually not as much off the corner. So it's not exactly 8-sided, it's 31 millimeters. What's that? 15 and a half. So if we change all these here to 31. What do we add in? 21, 3 millimeters basically. So that's where the measurement, the center measurement, or the diameter measurement are very helpful. If we select this dot and then click on the center line, only works if this is actually a construction line. So we change it to construction line, because then it finds a center. So if we click on that there, and then click on the line, that gives us, or it should give us, a measurement like that. We'll call this 127. We'll do the same with this one. But because sketch 1 is still being visible, it's been a bit of a poopy head. So let's turn that off. And that gives us 31 there. This one here. Is 23, should be. Delete that one because we've got over constraint. And then this one here, we delete that one. We'll go 31. So that should give me the same profile, but a little bit bigger on there at 45 degrees. Just for clarity, what I'm going to do is turn this one off. All right, we're going to hide this part here, which is part 1. And we've got this here. So same deal. What we're going to do is change this one now to, well, that's what we need to do, which we didn't do. Edit that sketch. And we're going to select that line and click on the construction line so it's no longer a construction line. And we're going to use this ruled surface. And it doesn't matter much how far out we stick. It needs to be 17 at least. And of course, that automatically turns that sketch off, so we have to switch him back on. And we need to mirror that. Introduce the mirrors one, which is that one. We need to add them together rather than put a new piece in. Click that one. And we need to do exactly the same again. Circular pattern. Introduce the pattern as that. And the axis of the pattern is there. And we're going to leave them as new parts. Then if we turn this other part back on, we can then use them to take the sides off. Probably we could use this. Into the split width is that. And that. I'll only do one at a time. Don't need to keep both sides. We'll unclick that. We don't need to keep the parts that we save. So we can just click that, and that's that on there. We do that again. Split. And the parts and surfaces to split, and then we've got an intersecting part here, so we can split it with that. We don't want to keep both sides. And okay that, and same with this one. It's probably an easier way to do that. It's a bit labor intensive to do it 4 times, but it's only 4 times. See, we haven't piece on here, and down here it's put another. We turn that off. It's left the part there, but we can change that if we go back and edit it. We can unclick this, keep both sides. And that automatically gets rid of the waste part. Don't know how it works, which one's the waste part, but it did this time and got it right. Parts and surfaces to split is that one. Entity to split with is that one. And that's, we turn off our sketches. And we press P again. That sketch and that sketch we could turn off. We're starting to look something like a snap-on tool handle. Now, the back of this has got a fillet on it, and we could just use the fillet tool. Which sort of works. Right? Is that how it works though? It's not really. It's how it works on the other end, but it works there. So, I think that this is actually a conical. Best way to do this we'll look at this end of it. And we'll switch on our right plane again. We'll sketch on that plane. Move that out of the way. I reckon that goes, if we use a center point arc, I reckon that arc, just guessing, is about there somewhere for the center. It puts the dimensions on it if we really wanted to go into production with this. But all we need is a box that looks something like that. With the right profile on it. And we can revolve that. It's not a real helpful sketch, that one. So let's start again with that. Edit that sketch. On the right plane, what we want to do is delete that and put something from there that's actually or parallel with that center line. And we can use this little tool here, which is the extend. Let's get that back down here so that it touches there. And then the trim tool. We could use the M shortcut for that if we wanted to. And then we can revolve that sketch. Because we've a center line or a line for the revolve. We can click. from part 1. And we've got, oh, we're starting to look more like it. That's more. Now, if we wanted to get nearly close enough, what I'm thinking I might do, and this is dragged out again. See, this has got a thumb depression in this part here, which is not a very difficult thing, I think, to do. We click the right plane again, and we turn on sketch 1 again, which is right up here. That's the first sketch we did, which is the profile of the tool. Right, we click that and copy those entities, and then we make a new sketch on the right plane. And paste the sketch entities in there. We can move this here with this little dot in the center. We can reposition this. We can slide this down so that it clicks onto that point, and down here so it clicks onto that point. And that didn't work. We can move it again, but if we just paste that back in again, what we need to do is move that to there. Click that on there. Move this one down here till it clicks on the center line, and this one along here so that it clicks on that point there. We've actually aligned that sketch nicely. Now, if we turn off part 1, which is the only part we've got, that's a good thing. We go back to this new sketch we just put in. The reason I've done that is because I want to modify this. We want to put a construction line from there. I'm guessing that's about 10 mil, the radius of that depression. Press Q to escape out of that and put a nice parallel line down there. And we can put some other sketch lines in here. We go too short for this. We could probably get rid of some of these lines. It's telling me the sketch can't be resolved because there's too much information here. Fix. Click M for trim. Not sure why M's trim. That's not really counted. It's not intuitive at all. We'll go to extend, which is probably X. It looks like we don't use that. If we click, find that dot there, we'll just extend it past and put another line in here. And we'll trim them nicely. Probably not really important, but we will. And we'll trim some of these out. We've still got sketch 1 showing, so I'm going to go a bit easier to see what we've actually got here. And what we're going to do is use this tool, which is the offset tool. And the offset tool. And we're going to offset this line. Probably down, got 1.5 millimeters. Down there. And that one down to there. Press M for trim. Zoom that in so we can actually see that and trim that little corner there. I think it's the same on this one. We could trim that one too. Now, if we use this revolve tool, and revolve that around this as a new piece, and turn this part on, I'll turn them both off instead. It's not quite right, because while it's got a further depression in the inside, it hasn't on there. It's got the same depression on the outside. If we take that from there, and we'll do that just for the exercise. Probably going to delete this, but if we delete that from here, why has that not done that? To go with the key tools. What it's done is give us a little step at this end and a step's end. And it's also told us that we're probably, I think, just a little bit deep. So we can change that. We close that so that we haven't actually. We can go back to sketch 8, which is this one. Right. It might be just as simple as grabbing that and moving that up to there. And grabbing this one and moving that one up to there. We're going to have to restrain that. So the best way to do that is put that to there to there. Yeah, you got silence there because that took me by surprise. It went out. And we need to measure this one from the point there to the point there. Make that 11.5. Doesn't work, see? Doesn't work. If we cancel that, we can go back to where we were. Probably we could do it like this, maybe. There we go. Not like changing that much, does it? I think we're going to redraw this line. Probably should have done that to start with. We'll constrain this like that. At 20 millimeters where it needs to be. That's where we got this stupid constraint here. It's probably where our problem was all along. So we put another spline from there, that point, to that point, through to that point. Trim that one. Trim that one. Let's escape to close everything up here. Close that one. And click that. A fraction deep there, I think. Now I've started this, I'm like a dog with a bone. Sorry guys, you feel free to disappear because it's getting late. But appreciate you coming and going, whoever's there. Let's redraw this sketch again. I think this only needs to be about 11. Let's try that. Now it's working good. That's looking better. Now we can, and probably the easy way to do this is we can use a circular pattern. We can just circular pattern that, and the axis of the pattern there is probably going to be that one. We're going to remove it. And move scope is going to be part 1. Now, not sure if that's exactly right, but it's not far out actually. It's a little bit different to that. Quite right. Not quite right. This needs a little bit of a chamfer on it. Right around here. Doesn't need to be 4 mil. I think it looks like it's only about 2 mil. It's not quite how it works either. Let's go 3. What we can do, I think, probably do that like this. No, that's not going to do it. I know what that does. It's not that. We should be able to quite easily, and I think of it's getting 8 though. Should very easily be able to make that an unequal fillet so it's longer on one side than the other, and there's a trick to it. It's not a big deal. I will smooth this out too. So it's not going to do that. I'd have to think about it. There's definitely ways to put all those fillets on there. This has got a depression in the end while we're on it. We'll just use this quick. Sketch on this end. Center point arc. That looks to be about 18 millimeters. There we go. That's a depression that's about millimeter deep. Go remove 1 millimeter. Right click this and we could go edit appearance. And I don't know if we want it yellow. The set I really wanted was bright pink. we're going to actually use a mixer here, and because there's no bright pink. And I got talked out of these, and I was really annoyed about that because I should have bought that set. So there's your snap-on tool handle. Press P. It puts all the planes in and takes. There we go. So that's cool. What time is it here? Which is way too late. We could get really fancy and we could put a hole up the middle of it for the blade and then 2 notches in it where the blade fits in. We've seen them change the blade and all that sort of stuff. But there we go. DMB. But there we go. That's snap-on tool hole and handle. Trying to think how you would actually make the blade. And there's much work in the blade because it's got some fancy forgings and it's got a hexagon on it and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, it's 10 o'clock. But there we go. It's roughly without too much streamlining. Could certainly streamline a lot more. Standard tool handle. You put a hole in that and 3D print it, and you've got a snap-on screwdriver handle. Anyway, that's what we've been doing. Thanks heaps, everyone, for joining in. I don't know if you've learned anything, but it gives you some idea how the actual, just quietly too, this shape is not exactly right. If we wanted to change it, it's a bit more complicated than that. We'd probably make another shape that's sort of more so that this is a bit flatter on the end here and probably a little bit wider here, and we'd use that shape of it rather than just a basic sphere shape or revolve. But we're not going to do that tonight. Anyway, that's what I've done. We'll catch you at some point. Thanks, guys. Appreciate anyone who's tuning in. There's still 5 of you watching, and I don't know why, whether you're the same 5 or what the go is. If you are watching this as a onshape user that saw this pop up and thought, well, maybe I'll get on and watch that. Really appreciate you guys. Give us a like and a subscribe because we do this every Tuesday night. If you've lasted this long, and jump in the chat and say hello. But really appreciate that. I'd like to get to know you all. But that's could be streamlined a lot, I think. Could be quite a lot nicer than that. But it's the basic shape. Far out. There's lots of little things. I think this side here needs to be filleted. Like this when I'm looking at it. For a start. Like that. Which is because these don't all line, you've got to do them separately. Never used to be like that. Something's changed in onshape, and I don't know whether they're going to change it back. But it was an actual change here that made it so that you had to have all as part of a chain to actually fillet them. So lots of little things there you can experiment with and get exactly right. And we're going to start a large project. I think people get sick of a large project. I really do. And there's a multiple number of large projects that are going on in time. But anyway, I might have another look at this next week. If really need to do some stuff on that hardness tester screen, and I might, if I've got a day before then or a couple of hours before then, I might get that shape up and running, and we can take that to the next level and make a shell of it, get it somewhere where we can actually 3D print it. And I'd like probably cast the main body in aluminium for Bill. But we'll see how we go with that. Anyway, I'm out, guys. Appreciate you. We'll have a bit more of a look at this. And might make a blade for it and see how it goes. But appreciate you guys. Run around in circles now, so I'm out. And take care. Be kind to each other. Give us a like and a subscribe. And if you're new here, pleased to meet you. Jump in the chat and say hello.